Hey everyone, welcome to the Hangout, episode 2. Uh, this was kind of an experiment. This kind of moving away from my usual content on my channel and just trying to provide a bit more of a laid back, kind of a casual kind of thing. I just hang out with you, we chat about some stuff. Eventually this will probably morph into like a live stream once a week or something like that, but for now this is kind of the hangout right here on Night Owl Video. I'm a little groggy this morning. I've been getting up really early the last couple of days and not sleeping super well. I don't know what's going on. My mind is very active recently, and just wait for this car to go by. I got all the windows open. It's I think it's like August 21st or 22nd or something like that. We're almost to September, which is kind of amazing. I don't know where the summer went. But yeah, I've been my mind has been very activated lately and just thinking about my future and lots of different things, and my hair is really greasy. That's a good sign though, isn't it? You're just out. Yeah, I'm just outside enjoying riding my bike, and yesterday I went for a picnic with my niece and my mom, which was really nice. We went to a campground picnic area and we had some lunch, and we just hung out for a couple hours and chatted and looked at the beautiful scenery around Blomidon here in Nova Scotia, which is a lovely part of the province. Shout out to all the firefighters and volunteers and everybody who is fighting the forest fires in Nova Scotia, and really, God bless all firefighters across the country. We're kind of in a mess right now. I sold some more movies this week, which was cool. I sold, I was very sad. I did say goodbye to my Evil Dead Necronomicon books. But they were, I guess I bought those when I was living in Fredericton a couple of years ago from a guy who had had them since when they came out. I also got the Evil Dead 2 tin collector's box from him as well, which I also sold. But I guess lately with my movie collection, I'm kind of feeling like, there's an old adage with people who collect things that, things will be in their possession for a while and then they'll move on to other people's houses and other people's collections, and other people will get to enjoy them. And that's kind of the way I'm looking at it, as well. Those things were in my possession for a couple of years and I enjoyed them somewhat, although I can't say I ever actually watched the movies in those Necronomicon sets. I just had the actual, like the prop kind of things standing up in my collection. I don't really have, nobody visits me, so it's like, who am I? I'm not like trying to impress somebody. I don't know. I thought they were cool at the time when I bought them, but I realize now that, and I did send them along to somebody who's a huge Evil Dead fan, so I was happy to see them go to a good home, and I've already had some good feedback from that person, so it was nice to send those along. So anyway, long story short, I have sold some more movies. Shout out to my pal Chris and Seamus and Ryan and Troy and all the people who have been buying parts of my collection and enjoying some of the things that I've enjoyed over the years. So shout out to all those folks. And it feels good to lighten up a little bit too on my physical collection of movies, because like I said in previous videos, it was just getting really out of control. I've been to the thrift store a couple of times recently. I did get some pickups, which I'll show you. The first thing I got was a book at Value Village. I got this really cool older book. It's the Digest of Outdoor Cooking. I know, very different for my channel, but this I found in the like crafts section of the store, but it's a black and white, it's a newsprint book. It's published by let's see if I can find who by DBI Books, Northfield, Illinois. And the year is in Roman numerals, MCMLXXIX. So if you're good with Roman numerals, you can figure out what year that is. I guess it must be IX. So is this like 70s? Wait, no, that's 11. I don't know. Funny story. Here's a funny story for you. Speaking of hanging out, or just on the subject of, us hanging out. There was one day in grade 6, I lived in Kingston, Nova Scotia, and there was one day in math class where we learned Roman numerals. And that one day, I was actually sick and I stayed home. And so I went to school the next day. They had like a little pop quiz on Roman numerals, and I had no idea what was going on. And I don't know what happened. The teacher never taught me like in a side lesson or whatever, like how to do it. So I know some things. I know like X is 10 and V is 5, and I can do some of those things. And of course, growing up on Star Wars, you had episode, IV, which is 4, and then V, Empire Strikes Back, which was 5, and VI, which was 6, which was Return of the Jedi. So I learned 4, 5, 6. But yeah, to decipher Roman numerals, I can't. But anyway, I found this cool outdoor cookbook. I love any old books, like any... whoa, I missed that page. Good field care, good meat. How to take care of your kill. There you go, guys. If you ever wanted to know how to fix yourself up some venison, there you go. This has other stuff in it, though, not just like hunting and stuff, but it has, interesting things about cooking and recipes. And I just love looking at the old ways, which to me were probably the best ways in hindsight. I mean, look, they're rocking a Coleman cooler there, or water jug. Some things never change. I'm a sucker for like old like bike packing pictures, or bike packing, or bicycle camping. But yeah, this was a cool book to find. It has a couple of recipes in it. It has some different things about, how to cook at a campsite, how to put out a fire effectively, all the cool stuff. There's some pictures of a person shopping at a grocery store in the 70s. So yeah, I love these kind of books. This originally, I was laughing to myself because this originally retailed for $2.95, and Value Village was selling it for $2.99. So apparently a 50-year-old book is gone up in value by 4 cents. But yeah, this is the secrets of successful camp cookery, tools and techniques for tent campers, RVers, and backpackers. So I've got a really cool book, bike camping, that was also written in the late 70s, early 80s, and it's also a great resource. Because these books they're not trying to sell you like products, they're just talking to you about like how to actually do stuff, which I appreciate. And it's not just like, if you want to do this correctly, you need to buy this piece of equipment and all this horse shit. And it's like, you don't have to do anything like to do stuff. You don't have to go and buy like $1,000 bicycle to go cycling. Back in the day when I first got my more recent bike, I bought it at Canadian Tire. It was like $198 or something. And, it only lasted me a couple of years before I sent it along to another place. But it got me out on the trails. It got me cycling. It taught me some things about handling bikes and things like that. So don't ever let any of these people be like gatekeepers for like stuff, because it's just a bunch of bullshit. What a bunch of bullshit. You can just go and do stuff, just, I don't know. I'm also learning this about camping too. It's like, oh, you got to have this blah, blah, blah type of stove, or this blah, blah, blah type of tent. It's like, no, you don't. No, you don't. I was rocking a like 40-year-old, well, maybe not 40, 30-year-old tent that I bought. 35-year-old tent. which was a good 10 at the time. I mean, I only spent like a couple $100 on it in 1990, but it's still pretty cool. I mean, the plastic on the floor has gotten a little grimy, but or not grimy, but it's just maybe the plastic's deteriorating a bit, but it still works perfectly fine. I've been watching a lot of like camping YouTubers and like van life YouTubers and a lot of these people, and I some of them are really honest, and that's really awesome. But some of them are just going on about all this equipment you need. You don't need it. But I stray away there a little bit on that conversation. But hey, this is the Hangout after all. If you're hanging out with me, you need to get yourself a beverage, warm or cold. Or if you're just satisfied, you don't have to do that either. I'm gonna have a sip. I'm rocking. I'm not sponsored by President's Choice Coffee, but I do enjoy their Canadian blend, and I have some Earth's Own, which is a great Canadian. How do you say, milk alternative? I guess an evil milk alternative. They make great oat milk. They make great almond milk. And when I was camping, actually, I had these little oat milk containers that you can buy. They're shelf stable, and you can use those for camping. Because I use one of those little ones in a day for like coffee and stuff. So anyway, shout out to Earth's Own. If you're watching and you want to sponsor me, of course, I'd be happy to espouse the joys of enjoying some great Canadian produced almond milk. Although I guess the almonds must be imported, but it is a Canadian company. I had been a big supporter of Silk almond milk, but I have since switched to Canadian. So the other, I got some music pickups this past week. Nothing good. So the first one up is Everything But the Girl. The album is called The Language of Life. Now, on the subject of the band Everything But the Girl, or the duo, I should say, it's two people. My old pal Marcy actually was the one that got me onto the Walking Wounded album, which was these two people. Let's see if I can find their names, give them proper credit. But they went kind of like, this was 1996. I wish I still had that CD actually, or even a rip of it, because it's a really cool album. It's Tracy Thorn is vocals and background vocals, and Ben Watt, who does vocals, background vocals, acoustic and electric guitars, and piano on various tracks. And then there's a whole list of backup musicians on this album. I'm really disappointed with this album. I only paid $1 for it, so it's not the end of the world. But I popped this on the car stereo when I was driving around the other day. And if you ever want to, if you did not grow up in the 70s, 80s, and into the 90s as a youngster, and you want to hear the sounds of, this album came out in 1990, I believe. Yeah, 1990. I put this on the car stereo and I said to myself, if I've ever heard an album that actually sounds like the year 1990, it's this album right here. This has the saxophone solos. I even wondered at the time, maybe you guys can tell me if there's a video on YouTube of this album like slowed down, like some of those people do, like those vaporwave type people. They slow down like 80s and 90s songs. This would probably sound better slowed down to like half pitch. I will not be keeping this in my collection, but it is a relic of the past, and it's really a touchstone of the year 1990 to me. Could not believe how much it just took me right back to like in the summer of 1990. I was living in Toronto with my bio father and his girlfriend at the time, and his girlfriend got me a job at one of those big accounting firms, and I was doing. I know I wasn't doing accounting. Nobody should trust me with accounting, just for the records. But I got a summer job doing like photocopying, running errands, and all this stuff. And um, I just remember like just everything about like this album just took me right. Not that I listened to this album back then, but it just took me back to that time of like the sexy saxophone solos and the just the whole sound and the vibe. I couldn't believe. Now that's one version of 1990. I mean, for me in 1990, I was listening to Sonic Youth's "Goo," the first Helmet record. Um, that summer, I was going through a real thrash metal phase. I remember getting the cassette of Metallica "Kill 'Em All" after I'd gone to see Dirty Rotten Imbeciles and Anacrusis opening for Dirty Rotten Imbeciles, and that was my summer of 1990. But yeah, working in this office in 1990 in the summer, just those vibes, man. It's just like that slowed down, like vaporwave or whatever. I don't know. Tangent. Anyway, I can't recommend this album. The musicianship is good. I'm not gonna lie, the production's pretty good, but just musically, nah. The next thing I got was just too weird to pass on, and I'll probably ask my friend Tyler about this if he wants this. It's an album called Underground Symphonies Volume 2. Tyler, if you're watching there, if you want a freeze frame on that, this is a compilation out of Quebec from, I don't know, je ne sais quoi. I don't see a year on it, but I'm guessing it's probably late 80s or early to mid 90s maybe. This has a bunch of bands. It must be a bunch of Montreal or Quebec bands. Necrotic Mutation with their song Psychopath, which was actually real heavy. Despise, Mortify, Suffering, Decimation, Atheistic Martyr, Sacramentary Abolishment with their track Misanthropy. Misanthropy? I always forget how to pronounce that word. Anyway, it's put up by UMG Canada New World Symphony Records out of Longueuil, Quebec. Yeah, I don't know. I popped this on in the car stereo the other day. The first couple songs were really good. Like the second band, Despise, had a track called State of Brutality. And it actually put me in mind of like early Slayer. Or like 80s Slayer, but then it kind of went into more like just real underground sounding metal, but like real muddy, sludgy sound quality. I'm just not into it. But I did notice in the thank you notes, they do thank Gorguts. Shout out to my boys in Gorguts. No, I don't really know them. I mean, I wish I did, but I do love me some Gorguts. But yeah, let's see what this says. Underground Symphonies Volume 2 is a promotional CD for the bands who take their career seriously. This particular disc is more or less a death metal compilation, but we are open to various styles for the coming compilations. So there must be more in this. Just write or call or fax us for detailed information. No band is too small. So shout out to New World Symphony Records. I also found this in a charity shop for $1, and I have my good friend Tyler. I think I'm a bit of a metalhead, but Tyler's like the mega metalhead. So, Tyler, if you're interested in this, give me a shout out or hit me up, and I'd be willing to trade this for something else if you got something to trade. I only paid $1 for it, so I'm not looking for a huge return. And then, guys, the last two things I picked up were both CDs by the band the Rolling Stones, as if you've never heard of the band. This up-and-coming cool rock group, the Rolling Stones. I have always hated the Rolling Stones, but on some level, I wanted to like Rolling Stones. I don't know why. I found this one first, which is Beggar's Banquet. This came out in the year 19... Well, it says 1986, but that can't be right. That must be like a reissue on Abco Records. I don't think so, anyway. I think this might have been part of a box set or something, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, I do really like the song Sympathy for the Devil. I listened to the whole thing. Just not really my thing. I don't know why I can't get into Rolling Stones. I mean, I love the Beatles. I love the Who. I love the Kinks. I like a lot of those bands from around that time. I just cannot get into the Rolling Stones. I'm sorry, Charlie Watts, maybe he was a nice guy and like maybe he was a steady 4/4 drummer, but my God, his drumming puts me to sleep. Every song, it's so uninteresting to me. Keith Richards, maybe like a bit of a raunchy guitar player. It's not my thing. I know that obviously there's millions of Rolling Stones fans. How many times do you walk down the street and see the Rolling Stones like tongue logo on a t-shirt or a bumper sticker? I mean, obviously people love the Rolling Stones and most of them are still alive, I think. Now, Charlie Watts died a couple years ago, but I could just never get into Rolling Stones. And when I was listening to this CD the other day, I thought the reason I don't like the Rolling Stones is because they're flat to me. And I know I'm probably gonna get some negative comments, but I just find them terribly boring. But the thing I realized the other day is they're just ripping off like 40s, 50s, and probably into the 60s blues records by like North American blues artists. And to be honest, I'd rather go listen to Howlin' Wolf or Hound Dog Taylor or Lightnin' Hopkins or any of those guys any day over the Rolling Stones. And maybe that's why there's just no it's got no soul to it compared to like those old blues records. I would rather listen to that any day. Maybe I will eventually find my thing. So the other CD I got was the Best of the Rolling Stones, Jump Back. Ooh, this one wasn't quite as bad. Now I do like some of their Rolling Stones songs. Start Me Up, Brown Sugar, It's Only Rock and Roll, but I like it. Wild Horses is a great track. This was remastered using the latest 20-bit technology from the original masters. This was put out in 1993 from Virgin Records. So I put this on, honestly, like Start Me Up and Brown Sugar, driving around in this cooler air with the windows down. It is actually kind of awesome. But I might hold on to this for a bit, or I might just rip it to my computer and at least I'll have a digital copy of it. But I'm just not big on this stuff, guys. I'm sorry if you're a big Stones fan, but... And I realized, too, like, with the Beatles, at least, like, yeah, they started by, like, ripping off, like, blues records in, like, 50s and Buddy Holly and a lot of that stuff. But, like, at least they evolved into something a little more interesting. I never felt like Rolling Stones, to me anyway, and maybe I'm missing out on some masterpiece record, but... I just never felt like they evolved like the Beatles did. And, you know, there was always that narrative going, like either you're a Beatles fan or you're a Rolling Stones fan. And I was definitely always a Beatles fan over the Rolling Stones. Maybe that's why I don't like them as much. But anyway, enough about the Rolling Stones. But yeah, most of those, is Keith Richards is still alive. Like he's still like, I don't know, he's still smoking cigarettes, drinking some Jack. Maybe he'll, do like the Lemmy thing. Well, actually, he's outlived Lemmy. If anybody could outlive Lemmy, it had to be Keith Richards. Sad to say, my coffee's gone room temperature, which means this video is running a little long, but that's okay because it's the Hangout. We'll call it the Alan Parsons Project. I may have mentioned in my last video, but I watched the Austin Powers trilogy recently, and it's not been good for me because everywhere I go, I'm either doing Dr. Evil, or I'm doing like a Oh Behave kind of, Oh Behive. Yeah, baby. Everywhere I go. So I'm sorry to everybody in my local town who has had to endure my awful Austin Powers impressions, but it makes me laugh, and so that's it. On the hi-fi this past week, Miles Davis greatest hits on my car stereo. A lot. Like I said, we're late summer now. The air's cooling off. If you go drive, if you have a car or a bicycle, or even put this on your headset when you're going for a walk, be mindful of the traffic though. But this is great back road, windows down, late summer music. Miles Davis greatest hits. The next one, also on the hi-fi, Cinnamon Toast Records. This is Trim Crusts If Desired. I didn't listen all the way through, but there's some great songs on this. You know, again, this is probably not going to be a popular thing to say, but there's a band. If you live in the Maritimes, there's a certain band that has achieved cult status. And listen, I love that band just as much as the next Maritimer, but Hardship Post was the best. Hardship Post was the best independent alternative band to come out of the Maritimes, and I'm sorry, like musicianship wise, technically, cleverness, sound. I've said this a million times before. Unpopular opinion, because I know there are many people that will praise certain bands. Well, there's a couple that I have in mind, and shout out to a couple of those bands, because I actually like some of those members of those bands are actually friends of mine still. But Hardship Post is their song, Won't You Come Home, which is the opening track on this CD. Such a killer song. And Rock Is My Life is on here as well. If you really want to check out a Hardship Post, though, I always have touted their demo Mood Ring, which I believe is still on YouTube if you want to go check it out. If you wanted to hear... and that's just my personal opinion. Hey, don't attack me. But yeah, go check out Hardship Post, Mood Ring. It's such an awesome demo. And if you like early Nirvana, it just gives you those vibes, but like more in a lo-fi kind of way. But yeah, there's all kinds of great bands on here. Boo-Bye Skull was on here. I really like that track. Jail, Leonard Cohen, Rebecca West, Thrush Hermit, of course. Shout out to Joel Plaskett, who I talked on the phone many moons ago. Eric's Trip is on here. Les Glutones, lots of great bands on here. So you're probably not going to find this in your local record store unless you live in Nova Scotia or New Brunswick, but you might see it somewhere out and about. It's a cool little compilation. On the hi-fi stereo this week, Mudhoney, Superfuzz, Big Muff, one of my all-time faves. Touch Me, I'm Sick, which of course Sonic Youth did a great cover of that. They actually did a split single with Sonic Youth, which, on that note, this CD is a compilation of Superfuzz, Big Muff, plus early singles, and this has their cover of Sonic Youth's Halloween, which is highly recommended, especially for the upcoming Halloween season. Spookiness. But this has In and Out of Grace, Touch Me, I'm Sick, Sweet Young Thing. Killer album. I actually wouldn't mind finding that on vinyl. Just Touch Me, Superfuzz, Big Muff. I'm sure it's been reissued. And these guys had great photography too. I always loved looking at the liner notes of these albums because the photography of them playing in action was just... It was as good as like the like that cover alone is just so cool. Man, look at those dudes. Yeah, it just gives me chills just looking at it, actually. But yeah, this is wicked. So Sonic Youth and Mudhoney did a split single on, I think it was on Sub Pop. So Sonic Youth did Touch Me, I'm Sick, with Kim Gordon singing, which was awesome. And then Mudhoney did Halloween on the flip side, which is a Sonic Youth song. This CD is from 1990. from Sub Pop. It's Sub Pop. It's Sub Pop spine number 21B, I guess. Mark Arm, Steve Turner, Matt Lucken, and Dan Peters. So yeah, so this was definitely on the hi-fi stereo. Well, I was on my car stereo with the windows down again when I was in a bit more of a rock mood, blasting that. So good. I told you I was on a Superchunk kick lately, so I did bring this into the car. This is Superchunk Incidental Music, 1991 to 1995. Another compilation. This has Shallow End, which was on the Jerky Boy soundtrack, I think. It has a cover of "I'll Be Your Sister" by Motorhead. This one has the 100,000 Fireflies, which was that Vaseline's. So yeah, this is a great compilation. I'm kind of again regretting getting rid of some of my Superchunk CDs years ago. I had some of the other, like the kind of later 90s stuff, which was still good, but I kind of grew out of it a little bit. But now I'm on the hunt for No Pocky for Kitty, which is, if you've never listened to Superchunk, go check out No Pocky for Kitty. It's probably one of the best, guitar records of the 90s in independent. You could actually call it indie and not be a pretentious asshole. Yeah, and of course, Laura Balance, my spirit animal. So yeah, go check out some Superchunk. There they are, just hanging out, having some tea. Just wholesome kids. Just wholesome kids. They run, of course, Merge Records, which I remember having a Merge Records t-shirt back in the day. And I actually really love this photo on the jacket, which is, I don't know if it's one of the people in the band, but they're rocking a helmet with a little banana board skateboard and a Kiss t-shirt. It's actually a Kiss t-shirt. Yeah, it's a Kiss t-shirt. They got the elbow pads. Cool. Takes me back. Not that I was that cool when I was a kid, because I definitely was not. I was a total dork, but... then the last couple days I've been rocking, actually on the subject of Sonic Youth, Murray Street. This is from the early 2000s. This was, I still love Sonic Youth all the way till the end, but these albums, I'm not as familiar with them as the early stuff. I was definitely more of a Confusion is Sex up until Dirty. And then Experimental Jet Set and a few of those ones after that. I still liked them, but I wasn't as into them as much as I was like Sister is probably my all-time favorite album. But I put this on, and actually I've been listening to a lot of the Grateful Dead jams on YouTube, and the first couple tracks on this album kind of gave me those vibes. I remember my very good friend Andy. Hello to Andy if you're watching. He went to see Sonic Youth open for Fish back in the mid-90s, and I remember him telling me about that show, and I was like, what a weird combination, Sonic Youth and Fish. But then I was reading an interview with Thurston Moore, and he was saying that he saw Sonic Youth kind of go in the way of Grateful Dead, in the sense that maybe they would just eventually become a band that just traveled around and did these mind-altering jam sessions. And it's kind of too bad they didn't. I mean, they did sort of go down that road a little bit, but it would have been cool if they had really, really gone that way. Obviously, there was interpersonal problems within the band, but so I'm kind of excited to keep going with this album and check out the rest of the album, because I'm kind of digging it, actually. I think it's just where my brain is at right now. Another band that even in the end of the 90s and 2000s also had great photography inside their album jackets. There's Lee Ronaldo looking pretty cool. So the inside is all the band members. So there's Lee Ronaldo, Kim Gordon. I don't know. I can't see very well. I think that's Thurston Moore, Steve Shelley on the end. I always forget that other guy's name. What's the other guy's name? I don't that they were always a four-piece, and then that other guy joined the band. Jim O'Rourke, I guess, is his name. Yeah, I definitely, this is not something I'm familiar with, this album. Like Sonic Nurse and what were some of the other ones? I didn't like check out on Sonic Youth, but that definitely wasn't like, it wasn't, I bought all the albums, but I can't say I listened to a lot of them. But kind of cool to revisit them now. My musical tastes have changed a bit, and I'm finding some great pleasure in those late 90s, early 2000s Sonic Youth albums. And speaking of the 90s, this morning on the Hi-Fi, I was listening to Sebadoh with their 1993 album, Bake Sale. Shout out to Backstreet Records. I still got the old tagger on there. I paid $8.99. But this is the Sebadoh Bake Sale Deluxe Edition, put out by Sub Pop as well. So this has the album Bake Sale, and then on the second disc it has extras, and it has like acoustic versions of like On Fire, Magnus Coil, Rebound. There's a bunch of stuff on here. Yeah, so for me, this was, 1993, this was my jam. Still is my jam. When I write music, and I have been doing a bit of it lately, when I think of like bands that I kind of like to sound like, Velvet Underground, Sonic Youth, obviously, but when I listen to Sebadoh, I always feel like, it's like when I listen to X, the band X, the LA punk band X. It's like, yeah, this is kind of where my heart and my creative spirit is like kind of entrenched in. Kind of stuff like I would like to sound like that, and I definitely borrow elements from it when I'm writing. But yeah, this is a great album. I just listened to this morning with my first cup of coffee, and it is excellent. So this is, of course, Lou Barlow, who was is the bass player in Dinosaur Jr. This is his solo project. He also went under the name Centrido, and I think a couple of other names. But for me, it didn't get better than this. This was a great album. So shout out to Lee Ronaldo. I hope I don't get some kind of like strike for showing naked people, but maybe I should have held it like this. Oh, it's just a baby's bum. Get over it. Speaking of babies, there's 3 kittens up the street from me. I live in the country, as you may or may not know. And there's 3 barn kittens. They're like this big. And they sit by the side of the road every day when I come and go. They live at the other end of the street where I live, in a barn, but they sit on the side of the road and they just watch the cars go by, and they are freaking adorable. I've tried to stop and take pictures of them, but they run away as soon as you stop. But they're so cute. I wouldn't bring one home just because I had some people that know me will laugh that I had cats most of my adult life, and I love cats dearly, but I'm kind of done with cats. I just don't want to own them anymore. I had a doctor's appointment this week, which went really well. My doctor has an intern with them, and I had a great appointment. I talked to the intern for probably 30 to 45 minutes, somewhere in there, told him my whole life story as a transgender person, and he was really amazing and helped me out a great deal. So shout out to those folks. And for continuing care, let's give our nurses and doctors a little bit of love, because, man, surviving the pandemic and then continuing on and giving us all the care that they do. And I know they're stressed out. My doctor told me a couple of months ago, I said, how are things going? And she said, really well. I just wish I had a second of another of me to help me out. So let's take care of let's give a shout out. It's okay to tell your doctors that you appreciate them and that, you value the care that they give you. Because in my experience, when you say that to them, I think they really feel like validated and loved a bit. Because I'm sure it can be a thankless job with people with aches and pains being really mean to them. So next time you go to see your doctor, of course, if you have a good doctor, I should say, even if you have a mean doctor, maybe tell them that you appreciate them and the care they give you, because maybe they just need to hear that. I've been doing that a lot lately with like grocery store cashiers or bank tellers or, people who serve you food at the restaurant. And it's just like, just say like, hey, you know what? I really appreciate your hard work. Or if you see somebody who's got a great sense of style, I've been doing that a lot lately, like, you have a great sense of style. And people love hearing that shit. So, and it makes you feel good, but I think it also maybe brightens some people's days. And with everything that's going on right now, in Canada alone, we've had the Air Canada strike, we've had the Canada Post strike, we have forest fires burning out of control, just generally people being shitty to each other, everything that's going on south of the border. It's just a miserable, miserable time. The extreme humidity, which is why I'm welcoming these cooler days, but people are just being so mean to each other. And it's like, man, and I'm not trying to sound righteous, but like, if you can go out and give somebody a little compliment or help somebody across the street or like just do something, it's better than nothing. And don't be afraid to do that stuff. I think it's a maybe also in the world right now, it's like people are afraid to talk to people and be friendly and help. It's just this mindset of like, the world sucks and I'm just going to be part of that suckiness. But you can combat that by being nice and doing nice things. And it can be something really tiny. A couple weeks ago, I showed up at my mom's house with some fast food and a couple candy bars, and we had lunch. And because she was stuck at home with my niece, and I was just like, here's, and she was just so like, oh, thank you for this. This is so awesome. Just little things, guys, that can make the world a little better. And I don't think enough people talk about how we could try to make the world better. So if you can do that, in a weird way, like, I mean, I'm selling movies, but I'm also handing movies off to people who are going to love those movies. So if I get a little bit of money in return for downsizing and for all of the work that I've put into my collection, and then in turn, I'm making somebody feel really happy because they're getting that cool thing like that Evil Dead Necronomicon. So shout out to Troy. Then it brightens their day and they're really excited. And it's like in my first Hangout video last week, I was talking about putting the mystery back into life. Let's put a bit of kindness back into life and a bit of like joy. And for me personally, this summer, it's been all about pushing myself to go out of my comfort zone and go outside and go for long bike rides and go camping and go for picnics and put my windows up, even when it's hot, and just enjoy the sensation of summer, even though it's not that pleasant because of global warming, but just to enjoy some things and listen to the birds singing outside and try eating something different and see if you like it. Just all that stuff. Guys, this has been a long video, but I hope I had some really good feedback on my first Hangout video, so I hope some people are digging these. I like doing them. It's a bit more casual. It's not so much like, look at all this cool shit I got. And it's like, there's more to life than just, like material things. And I know years ago, my friend Christina told me that our mutual friend Debbie was, more interested in experiences and less about things. And I've really had that in the back of my mind a lot lately. And just kind of like downsizing, and maybe, I don't know if I'm going to be like a nomad or like a van lifer, but or a camper or just some kind of mix of all that, campgrounds. But I am kind of moving in that direction. Like I said in my last video, oh God, I'm turning into a hippie. But for me, it's not a bad thing. I used to like shun that, but I guess as you get older, you get a little softer around the edges, and you realize, like, yeah, who was saying that about hippies? Was it? I was watching an old clip of Jello Biafra from Dead Kennedys, and he was saying, like, it was an old an old interview with him, and they were talking about punk rock. What is punk rock? I think you can find it on YouTube. And he was just saying, well, punk rock is just an extension of, like, the beatniks and the hippies when those movements actually tried to change things and and had a bit of backbone instead of just a bunch of old dudes drinking beer and listening to heavy metal. But that's what Jello Biafra said. I paraphrase, but it was like, when I heard that, I was like, oh yeah, it's true. I always loved the beatnik writers and that kind of whole vibe with the jazz and the cafes and the writing and the on the road Jack Kerouac and all that stuff, and Allen Ginsberg and William S. Burroughs. In fact, I have not read a lot of books in my life, but I was a voracious reader of beatnik history. And but yeah, so watching that video of Jello Biafra talking about that back in, like, the early 80s, and he was just saying, like, people were saying, the interviewer was saying, like, what is hardcore punk? And he's just like, well, it's just basically the same as what the hippies were doing before the hippies became old people that just sat around and drank beer and listened to heavy metal. It was like they were actually, like, testing the waters with, like, cultural norms and ways of living and communes and literature and poetry and music, and expanding the envelope, pushing the envelope. So as I get older, maybe I'm getting a bit of that sense too. It's like, oh yeah, I appreciate a lot more now what they were doing back then when I was a punk rocker in the 80s. No, I was like, nah. But now that I've gotten older, it's like, yeah, I do listen to Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and Yes, and Rush, and I love those bands now, where, like, 40 years ago, it was like, oh no. Asterix, always loved Rush. But yeah, so just, I don't know. I would really like to try live stream, so if anyone out there would like me to try a live stream, tell me what you think would be a good time to do one, and maybe I'll experiment and just see how that goes. I don't know how any of that works. I don't know I know I watch people do live streams and they're, like, moderating the comments and all that, but I would like to try that maybe and move away from this. And I think my channel will be kind of more this long form, kind of just like stream of consciousness. And maybe I'll start reading poetry or play my guitar. Just, I don't know what's going to happen, guys. Who knows what's going to happen? But take care of yourselves, take care of your family and friends. If you are on social media, I'm not, but if you are, send some love to your volunteer firefighters, and shout out to other provinces in Canada who are sending firefighters and equipment here to Nova Scotia to protect our wildlife and our countryside. Shout out to all those people. We don't know, I mean, I'm sure some of you know how complex and complicated fighting fires is. I have to admit I'm a bit naive about it, but I have to understand that it is impossible work, and they're doing the best they can. So shout out to all those people. Shout out to doctors and nurses and taxi cab drivers and homeless folks and just everybody out there who's struggling. Support who you can. Take care of yourself, of course, but get out there. Again, it's like I don't have a lot of extra time during the week to go and volunteer at an animal shelter or someplace or the hospital, but like I said, even just like thanking people or like complimenting people on their awesome sense of style, or I know recently a person I know in my community just lost their mother at a young age from sickness, and so I've been like checking in with that person every couple of days, just popping into the store and being like, you okay? Is there anything I can do for you? Invariably they'll always say, no, I'm fine, but I appreciate the thought, or I appreciate the sentiment. But it's just those little things, guys. So Halloween is just around the corner. Also, I'm so goddamn excited for the fall. I was in one of my local dollar stores the other day. Excuse me. But there's a whole aisle of Halloween stuff, and I was just giddy in the aisle. Pumpkins. I saw some really funny. There was one sign I'm actually thinking about getting to hang on my door. I forget what it said now, but it was a really funny, like, zombie kind of sign or something. But all that stuff's starting to flood the market. I'm not saying that's necessarily a good thing, because a lot of it's just cheap plastic from other countries, but I am excited for the spooky season. Last year I did my 31 days of Halloween movie watch thing. I probably won't do that again. I found it was a lot of work for very little return, but I will definitely be doing some spooky stuff for October. So let's have another sip of coffee before I lose my voice. So if you guys have any fun ideas for Halloween you'd like to see me do on the channel, let me know. But otherwise, that's it for today. I've gone almost an hour, guys. Crazy. But I think the live stream could be fun. And we could do this kind of as more of an interactive thing. Right now, it's just me talking and sharing my thoughts on the world and physical media and stuff. But if you want to have a conversation, I think that might be fun too. But anyway, if you've made it this far, God bless you. Thank you for watching. That's it for today, guys, I guess. I have to go to work now. I'm going to hang out with my niece for the day. I think we're going to go up the road to another town called Berwick, as the locals say, and go check out some stores and different places down there. Maybe have a coffee somewhere. But yeah, enjoy the sunshine. And that's it for today, guys. Thank you for watching. Thank you to my close friends. Tanya, if you see this video before I respond to your email, I did get your email. I just haven't had time to sit down and kerplunk on the keyboard, but I will return your message very soon. Been really loving getting off the computer and the cell phone lately, but that's it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, you know the drill. I'll see you at the video store or at the thrift store, or maybe at a campground, or maybe out and about somewhere. I don't know. Maybe I'll see you at a Grateful Dead reunion concert. Who knows? But until next time, don't eat the brown acid. Bye.